Today on my way here, I was behind a car that had a bumper sticker that says, "Do you follow Jesus that closely?" And then the light turned green, and I'm telling Pizza Man on the phone about how that's what it says. And the light turns green, and they're sitting there. They're sitting there. So I honked the horn. And do you know that these people sat there and honked the horn back at me?
Really?
And then drove away? Pizza Man was like, did they just honk back at you for honking because they sat through most of a green light? I was like, yeah. And then I yelled, Jesus, take the wheel! Which was not totally appropriate, but...
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Courtney.
Join us as we delve into true crime, paranormal encounters, and all things spooky.
Grab your flashlight and get ready to wander into the darkness with us.
This is Wicked Wanderings.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Hannah.
And hi, Rob. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
I think the Wanderers thought you went missing.
Well, who do you think does all the producing and the back end?
Kenzie.
Yeah, Kenzie's a very good producer. Okay, first of all, this was a rabbit hole. And I know, Courtney, you love I love a good rabbit hole. This was amazing. I had so much fun with this one. I want to talk about the Yosemite Park Killer.
Okay.
Do you know about the Yosemite Park Killer?
Just the name.
Do you, Rob, know about the Yosemite Park Killer?
No.
Okay. But I feel I cannot talk about the case until I talk about who Stephen Stayner is.
Okay.
Do you guys know about Stephen Stayner?
Negative.
Not at all.
This is going to be great. Okay. I probably should say a disclaimer, guys. Like, some of this can get really...
Graphic.
Yeah. So...
Graphic advisory.
Beware. Stephen was the miracle case of the decade. But I think he was a person with the worst luck ever. On December 4th, 1972, 7-year-old Stephen Stayner was waiting for his mom to pick him up after school. She got delayed, as moms do, and she got to the school late, but Stephen was not there anymore. She figured probably, he went off with some friends, or he'll be back later. A couple hours go by, and they end up deciding to call the police because he didn't come home. Apparently, Stephen was approached by a man named Kenneth Parnell, and another man named Murphy, which I don't know where this guy Murphy comes into it because I feel like he was never mentioned in anything else. Just say two men at this point, but Parnell's a big part of this. He asked Stephen if his mom would want to donate to his church. And he said, yeah, his mom probably would like to do so. So Kenneth's like, great, we'll give you a ride home and we'll talk to her.
Do you know what kind of church?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
But since there was no church.
Guess it didn't matter.
Guess it didn't matter. They passed Stephen's street and they said, we'll ask your parents if you can stay the night. Okay.
Seems creepy.
Very creepy. Next night came, same thing. Let's call your parents, see if you can stay another night with us. Next thing Stephen knows, Parnell says that he went to court and got custody of Stephen and that his parents didn't want him anymore. Soon, Stephen's name got changed to Dennis Parnell. And meanwhile, Stephen's family was trying not to lose hope that their brother and son would return home. Stephen's mom would not leave the house for 2 to 3 years unless someone was there to answer the phone or the door. So right now, in terms of crime, we are looking at a kidnapping.
Right.
Stephen started calling Parnell dad. He would go to school. He made friends and he continued his life, which is just so absolutely creepy to me. And again, just so you guys know, I didn't really say where this was. This is near Yosemite.
Okay.
So that part of
I
California.
figured because of the way that it was related.
Yeah. Friends were actually interviewed and said that they obviously knew him as Dennis and that he would have like dirty fingernails, holes in his shoes. Parnell would letting him smoke. So like probably a DCF case if it was now, but they just said he's a quiet, subdued kid and that he hung out with them and just seemed to be kind of quiet.
How old was he?
So he was kidnapped when he was 7.
Oh.
I'll tell you in a second how long he was there for. Parnell would move them to like a different area because he would figure out that he's under speculation of something. Like, there's something off about this. Where did this kid come from? As Stephen got older, Parnell tried to get Stephen involved in helping him pick up boys.
Oh boy.
But Stephen wanted nothing to do with it. Parnell did end up getting a new boy. So basically, Stephen came home and there's this 5-year-old child there. And Parnell's like, great, you got a little brother now. And the child's name was Timmy White, 5 years old from Ukiah, California. Stephen did not want the same things to happen to Timmy that happened to him. So during a night, and mind you, this is 7 years later. This kid's been like stuck with Parnell for 7 years.
Yeah, so he's 14, 15
Yes.
at that point.
During the night, he hitchhiked with Timmy from Point Arena to Ukiah, which I believe was about like 30 miles, during a rainy, dark night. And Stephen found the police station with Timmy and said, I think my name is Stephen.
Interesting.
Right?
Imagine
It's so
being
weird.
the police officer standing there like, okay, first of all, what do you mean you think your name
Yeah.
is Stephen?
Yeah. March 1st, 1980, cops show up during the early hours of the Stayner household and said Stephen is in Ukiah. So, of course, the parents are like, oh my God, we got to go there now. And he's like, no, like, we have to talk to him first. This is a crime scene. We have to take care of this first. But on March 2nd, 1980, Stephen is reunited with his family. Hundreds of people, including a media frenzy, is watching this reunion unfold. I can't imagine trying to reintegrate being into a family you haven't seen in 7 years, right? They're calling you a different name.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you have all these siblings you haven't seen in years. Your parents are probably all over you. And
the media. What an intimate, uncomfortable situation. I understand why the media makes a big spectacle of that, a success story, which we don't often get, sadly, but I can't imagine how uncomfortable it is just from what you were saying and then being like magnified.
yeah,
onto
especially
television.
since I'm sure for 7 years, Parnell was telling him to stay out of the limelight,
Right.
right? So,
And it's a
Definitely
personality trait now. He was
Mhm.
quiet. He didn't really enjoy being a spectacle.
so he returned to his old room, old friends possibly, and a new school because he's now in high school. And there was no privacy for Stephen for a while. The media would just find him at school, stalk him, ask him questions. Again, schools were different back in the early 80s where you could just basically walk in and they would just find him and start asking him questions. Therapy was brought up, which he probably should have done, but Stephen's dad was against it. He didn't like psychologists or psychiatrists. He said, like, basically keep your problems to yourself.
Huh.
Stephen said he did not want it either, but I'm not sure if that was more of the influence of his father or something he just didn't want to talk about.
For both, yeah.
Yeah. The siblings were happy to see him, but soon it turned to jealousy because of all the attention he was receiving from every direction. The brother, Carrie, was quote-unquote off, according to one of the sisters. Carrie was feeling neglected and not feeling important. There was actually part of a story where they were all sitting down to dinner and Stephen's like, there's a spot missing. And the parents are like, oh, right, Carrie, we need to get a place for him. So like totally kind of forgotten about and wasn't good.
How many siblings did Stephen have?
So there was Stephen, Carrie, and 2 sisters and maybe one more brother. There was 5 of them. So of course there has to be court and there were charges against Parnell. Surprisingly,
Oh,
this
no.
got me so bad. Parnell was convicted in abduction prior to taking Stephen.
Oh,
Oh, that's good.
And he served a little time for it and obviously got out.
served a little time
Yeah.
for it. Wow.
But it's only going to get worse. Talk of abuse came up, but Stephen denied it happening. Then the police found Polaroids of Stephen naked, and they had to call Stephen in and have him talk about it. June 8th, 1981, the judge gave the toughest sentence he could for the kidnapping of Timmy, which was 7 years.
I'm
That's
sorry. Kidnapping, the toughest the judge could do is 7
Mhm.
years.
Oh, but it gets worse.
Oh.
December 1st, 1981, Stephen testified against Parnell and confirmed the sodomy and oral sex acts on the stand. Parnell would receive another 84 months, but since Parnell already got the max for Timmy, because of the current statutes in the state, it had to be only 20 months.
So
He
to
already
clarify, he kidnapped Timmy and he kidnapped Stephen, but
Yep.
prior to both of those, he had kidnapped.
Yes.
He had some kind of kidnapping charge.
Yes.
So this is a man who's kidnapped at bare minimum 3 times.
Yes.
And they're like, well, we've already given him the maximum, so shruggy
Right.
emoji. Because he clearly learned his lesson the last time.
Oh, yeah, totally did.
He just doubled it and did it again.
Yep.
Major douche canoe.
Yep, major douche canoe. Because of Stephen testifying to the abuse, he started to be bullied.
Of course. Kids are mean.
They started calling him names like the F word.
Mm.
Oh.
Say online. The principal was interviewed, and I am going to quote what he said because it pissed me off. And here I am quoting. We have a good bunch of kids at our school, and therefore I see no problem with it all. In the immediate future, of course, Steve's going to have a hard time not having girls chase him down the street and this kind of thing. But other than that, there's no problem.
Huh.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons for their generous monthly contributions. You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contributions sustain our commitment to delivering high-quality content. Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of our dedicated patrons. Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime.
What the flying fuck?
Oh, history and children education and
Yeah.
sexuality related issues
Yep.
really bother me.
Yep. So as you can imagine, Stephen kind of spiraled. He started drinking heavy. He indulged in some pot, took pills. He wrecked some cars. And then he just started having sex with basically whatever girl would want to come at him. And of course, I just think he was just trying to prove something to people, which is just
To
awful.
himself, it seems like.
Yeah.
Maybe like he was afraid that people were thinking he was one particular way. And when you're a child and somebody forces things on you, that doesn't make you anything other than a victim.
So by this time, he's what, 16, 17?
He's
I mean,
15,
depending,
yeah.
15, yeah. After high school, he ended up meeting his future wife, Judy
Okay.
Edmonton. Stephen was 19, she was 16, but hey, it was the 80s. They ended up having 2 children together, and everyone said he was a good dad, which was like, oh, like, finally, like, stuff's coming together for him. There was, like, interviews I watched, and you'd see that he was trying, right? He was trying to build up his life again. Hollywood ended up approaching him about making a movie about his experience. And so he said yes, even though his mom didn't want him to, because she's like, I think too much media has been on him for years. I think he needs a break. But then he's like, well, I kind of need the money, so I got kids to raise. It ended up being aired in 2 parts on May 22nd and 23rd, 1989, and it was called I Know My First Name is Stephen. Nearly 40 million viewers tuned in, making it NBC's highest rated miniseries in 5 years.
Wow.
The Emmys were approaching, and people were hoping to acknowledge him in a speech of some sort if they got one. Stephen passed away the night before the Emmys in a hit and run while he was on his motorcycle.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This kid has the worst luck I think I've ever seen. And there's a great documentary I watched that put some clips in there. It was called Captive Audience. It's a 3-parter. I thought they did a great job with it. Remember that crappy sentence that Parnell got?
Which one?
In 2004, he was arrested again
Jesus Christ.
for trying to purchase a child.
I'm
Purchase?
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe they should have been. This is like one of those times where you have to be very specific about what you mean. You don't steal a child. Now he's trying to purchase a
Yes.
child. So he must have learned that you can't steal them. So now he's trying to do other things.
But don't worry. The court system learned their lesson this time because he was sentenced to life in prison. But
something
he
about the
died.
exchange of money, I
Yeah.
guess.
But he died in 2008, so he only served 4 years.
Did somebody kill him?
Not that I know.
I wouldn't be
think he was-
shocked.
I don't know why I want to say it was cancer, but I could be wrong.
Karma.
This did not stop the curse that seems to be on the Stayner family.
Oh,
Remember Carrie?
yeah.
He was working at the Cedar Lodge near Yosemite National Park when 3 people go missing.
I was wondering where this connection was going to come into play.
While doing research on Carrie, I found some interesting background information on the Stayner family as a whole, minus the whole thing with their son getting kidnapped and then showing up again and having a life and then dying. The mother was physically and emotionally abused when she was younger, so she was not a very affectionate mother.
Okay.
Interesting, though, the father was a little too affectionate and was said to be molesting his daughters.
Oh my God.
So I don't know how much truth that is because I did read a book on the Yosemite Killer. It's called The Yosemite Park Killer by Jack Rosewood. It's super tiny. It's like a 100-page read. You know, sometimes with how small these books are, I don't know how accurate information is, but that is what one person said. When diving into the family tree of the Stayners, like going back generations, there's histories of alcoholism, mental illness, sexual abuse, and all other abuses that you could think of. So this family is not what you would call, I don't want to say wholesome, but like
that white picket fence.
yeah,
All American, traditional for that time.
they
kind of family.
struggled. They were on the struggle bus. Carrie was born on August 12th, 1961, and at 3 was diagnosed with trichotillomania, which, for those of you that do not know, it's a compulsive behavior of pulling out your hair. Carrie seemed to always have some mental health problems that were never addressed. He would fantasize about killing the checkout clerk when he was 7. He was molested by his uncle, and when Stephen returned home, the parents forgot to set a place for him at the table, which I told you guys about that story. So this kid's basically forgot about. When you see media coverage of Stephen, you just see Carrie like in the background, just ominously with like just a really sad face, like his kind of like furrowed brow, There's one point where if you watch the media frenzy, he just like walks away and goes. He's just like, I really don't want anything to do with this anymore. One positive thing in his life was drawing and the outdoors. He loved Yosemite. It was his happy place. Fun fact, he had a Bigfoot sighting.
Oh, man.
And was a huge advocate for the belief in Bigfoot, which I don't know. I just thought that tickled me pink. That
It's not Ted Bundy, but at 21 minutes and 39 seconds, we're talking about Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Before the killing started, he was in therapy, and they wanted him to start group therapy, but he was like, nope, I'm done, and just started to work at the Cedar Lodge. February 1999, 3 women go missing. A mom, Carol Sund, her daughter, Julie, and an Argentinian exchange student that they had, Silvina Peloso. They were visiting the area for sightseeing and checking out colleges. The next day, they were supposed to leave for Arizona and meet up with Carol's husband. They were supposed to meet at an airport, probably a connecting flight, travel to Arizona together, but they never showed. And he thought that was a little strange. Like, this isn't like my wife. She's very particular. I know that she would have the flight plan. Maybe it got delayed. So he decided to keep going on to Arizona without them.
Interesting.
I thought that was interesting. Oh, but this is also interesting. He got to Arizona, played a round of golf, and then decided to check on things. Which, like
I
think it's
understand it
weird.
was a different time back then, so we weren't all as, like, used to being connected the way that we are now. But I still think that's odd.
It's odd.
Yeah.
I mean, like, did you just need something to take your mind off of it? But, like...
There were so many phones you passed
Yeah.
between getting off the plane and going to go do a round of golf.
Right.
Yeah.
He called the car rental place, and they said the car was never returned. He called the lodge next, and they said they never returned the room key. The room was checked, and it didn't look like, a mass murder happened there, but some strange things that they noticed were there was a pillow and a blanket missing, and the bag of their souvenirs was still there. Which, if you're going to spend money on that shit...
Right, so they hadn't checked out as kind of...
Right.
I've taken a pillow from a hotel before.
I would never take a pillow from a hotel. I think of how many
Right.
freaking heads have been on that.
Mm-hmm.
This was when I was a kid.
Oh, before you thought about germs on the pillow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so where's the car?
Right.
That wasn't there. Local police got involved, and also, interestingly, the FBI did because of the exchange student that was involved.
That makes sense, yeah.
They end up finding the car off the road in the woods, burned, with 2 bodies that later get identified as Carol Sund and Silvina Peloso.
So where's the other
Where's
girl?
Julie?
Right.
So the police get a letter in the mail, and it said, quote, "We had fun with this one," end quote.
Who's we?
I will get to the we.
Okay.
With a map showing where the body is. The police were excited about this. They said, great, we know where the body is going to be, and we have DNA on this letter. The police will later learn Carrie paid someone $5 to spit into a cup so he could put the spit on the envelope.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, he changed his handwriting. And he also said we, so that would throw people off. You think more than one person. They followed the map, and they did find Julie propped against a tree, decaying, obviously. She'd been there a couple days. Soon, another woman is found dead, named Joey Ruth Armstrong, who was 26. It is said Carrie approached her and started talking about his Bigfoot sightings. Cool!
Well, see, Bigfoot sightings. Don't talk to people about those.
When he determined she was alone, he got her in the house at gunpoint and bound and gagged her. He told her originally that he was going to only rob her, but it started getting dark and he brought her back outside to his car. I think this girl obviously had a sixth sense because she's like, what the fuck is this about? He started to drive, but Joey was not going quietly, so she dived out of the window of his car and began to run into the woods. Carrie gave chase, finally caught up to her and sliced her throat and ended up decapitating her head. But without her struggle, the police would not have caught him because of all the DNA that she had gotten in the car, on him, under his nails, because of the struggle she had left. So really, she probably saved lots of people because Carrie did say that if he wasn't stopped, he probably would have kept killing.
Definitely a sick individual.
Yes. One of the most interesting things to me is apparently Carrie asked for a movie to be made about his life.
Yeah, that's a big attention-seeking thing. Nope,
Well,
definitely not.
Jealous of his brother.
I'm torn, though, about this because you can see why he would, right? You thought what my brother did. He was a big hero and he had a great life. I'm going to give you guys a better tale. But also, he was a man with secrets and not someone who liked the attention and limelight because you see him leaving media frenzies when his brother came home. In the book I read, he claimed to want the movie to give the proceeds to the victims' families, but this was not said in the documentary. just that he wanted a movie. Like, he asked...
all the attention.
Yeah, he asked the media for... So, I don't know.
Even the
it could go either
letter.
way.
Like, we
Even the
know
letter.
this from, Cousin Mark has an episode.
Yep.
The letters where they're taunting the police and they're telling them, hey, this is where it's going to be. They
Yep.
want that recognition and they want them to find it because without that, there's no media coverage.
Right.
All that work they did was for nothing.
Nothing. Right. So I am going to actually tell you what actually happened with the 3 women. And supposedly this is what happened the night of the crime. Stayner knocked on their door at 11 p.m. And he had actually said that he went knocking around to different rooms that had no one in it, just so they could hear, like, maintenance on everyone's door, so they knew, like, oh, okay, they're just coming around to check something.
Calculated. Very calculated.
Very calculated. Stayner knocked on their door, and he asked to be led into the room to check a leak. And I guess they didn't want to let him in, and he's like, okay, well, then I'll have to go to the front desk and have you move to a different room. And they're like, oh, fine, we'll just let you in. He goes straight to the bathroom, and after being in there a bit, he emerges with a gun. He bounds and gags them and ends up putting the 2 girls in the bathroom while he strangles the mom to death. So while he's strangling Carol, and this is something he said later, and I'm quoting, "I didn't realize how hard it is to strangle a person," Stayner said late in his taped confession. "It's not easy. I had very little feeling. It was like performing a task."
Yeah, there's some sociopathy going on there.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
And you know how I feel about sociopaths.
Yes. He puts Carol's body into the rental car in the trunk and went back to the girls. And I quote, "He dragged Son's body outside and placed it in the trunk of the rented Pontiac Grand Prix, then went back into the motel room where the 2 girls waited. He cut the girls' clothes off and tried to get them to perform sex acts on each other, but Sylvina could not stop crying. Stayner said he became so irritated by her sobs that he took her into the bathroom and strangled her while she knelt in the bathtub. Although at one point Stayner said that none of his victims had been sexually assaulted, he then raped Julie both in the family's motel room and the room next door, toward the end, just forcing his flaccid penis into her mouth, gagging her as he struggled to regain his erection. So he then put Sylvina in the trunk where Carol's body is, put their stuff into the car so it looks like they left, and then put Julie in the passenger seat. He took her duct tape off and made her have small talk.
That's
Can
really
you imagine?
I think that would be the worst part of the whole thing. Like, you just did all these things to me. You forced me to do all this. I watched you kill people.
Mhm.
And now you're making me have to sit here and talk to you. Like,
Yeah.
just let me be fiery mad or
Yeah.
or sad or upset, scared even.
Okay, here I am going to quote again. "She was a very likable girl," he said. "She was very calm. I told her I wished I could keep her." Instead, he raped her again, told her I loved her, and slit her throat, driving the knife so deeply into her throat that he almost severed her head. And then it just goes on to say that he hid Julie's body in the brush and everything. Then this motherfucker called a cab, and as the passenger, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" to his driver.
Definitely,
Peculiar guy.
definitely hitting all the, like, sociopath checkpoints.
Yeah.
Of, like, can do something, be so cold, and just not consider the other person's feelings. No empathy at all there.
I'd like to know more about that conversation. Like, did the taxi driver say yes? Did the taxi driver say
I
no?
feel like if you say yes, then you're next at knife point. So hopefully he was like, never heard of him.
So it did say that the cab driver, Jenny Paul, later remembered her passenger who asked to be driven to Yosemite Lodge, where his young brother's abductor had once worked, and the strange conversation they had along the way. And that's when he asked, "Do you believe in Bigfoot?" When she told him no, he responded, "You should, because he's real." He might as well have been talking about the boogeyman.
So the taxi driver said no.
And it was a female taxi
Mhm.
driver, which is interesting because you would have expected by his pattern that he would have taken that opportunity.
And there were some other people that said, "Oh, I remember being at the hot tub at the lodge and him being in the hot tub with me and striking up conversations." And I was like, why is this guy so uncomfy? Like, that sixth sense, right? We talk about, we're like, you're coming off as a really nice dude, very handsome, but why are you still giving me the creeps?
Sometimes you just know.
Sometimes you know. In 2000, he got life without parole for the death of Joey. July 2002, he went to trial for the 3 women. He received the death penalty and is still awaiting execution at San Quentin State Prison. And that, my friends, is the story of the Stayner family and the Yosemite Park Killer.
There's so much to that.
So much! So much! I agree.
Did you pick this story because it has a lot of Bigfoot talk in it?
No, I didn't know anything about the Bigfoot until I started reading.
Ah.
And then it really just sold it to her.
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
I knew I was going to do the Yosemite Park Killer, right? And then I was on TikTok, as one does, and the girl was saying, "Oh my gosh, you guys need to watch this documentary that's titled Captive Audience on Hulu." So I started watching it, and I was like, wait a minute. wait a minute, this is the Stayner family. This is the same Stayner family that Carrie's in. And I was like, oh my God, this is a rabbit hole. So that's how it ended up coming along.
It's definitely, it has my wheels turning because you're looking at, was Carrie always that way? Were the things that happened to his brother part of the lack of attention? What was the home life like when his mom was like, wouldn't leave the house?
Yep.
And what was that abuse like between his father and him?
Right. And there's different perspectives, but it sounds like the dad was like just totally beside himself when Steven went missing and wasn't paying attention to anybody. And he was just distraught all the time.
Which makes
upset.
sense.
So it's like, it seemed like the family was finally trying to find some peace with what was happening. And then Steven ends up showing up and he's this huge hero and they have people outside their house all the time wanting to know everything. But then, you know, things start getting back to normal again. And then Steven dies. Now he's back into the media. He's all the attention's back on him again. So I feel bad for Steven from what basically I know, because it sounded like this kid had such a bad run and he finally seemed to find some sort of happiness with a wife and kids. And then he fucking dies in like one of the worst ways I could think of. Didn't have a fighting chance.
Right.
I don't know. It's like, could Carrie blame Steven and what happened with the way he was? Probably, but I don't think that's all it. I think there's a mental health issue in this family.
Oh, definitely.
A lot of trauma.
And
It's a complicated family.
like, even if you look at, like, what happened to Steven? Steven was the victim of kidnapping.
And abuse.
And sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And so then for him to become the perpetrator who did those things essentially to Steven, to other people.
Right.
Not as long term as Steven's situation. I always come back to that behavioristic, like, it's attention-seeking behavior, and you have some people who will find negative attention just as reinforcing as positive attention. Carrie knew there was no way he was going to get that attention in a positive light compared to Steven, and then Steven died, and he was glorified anyways because of everything that happened. So really the only way he stood a chance at getting any kind of recognition that same scale was to do something bad.
Yeah, absolutely. It just boggles my mind too, where he was kind of had this obsession with the daughter and saying, I loved her, I wanted to keep her. Was he searching for love, but not knowing how to do it appropriately? And there was also, when he was in prison, he had a pen pal that was a married woman. But she said that, no, it was nothing like that. I just wanted to talk to him. But then he was like, oh, your husband's so lucky to have you. Like, please contact me anytime you want. He's lacking. He's lacking things. He's trying to fill a hole. And he's just not doing it the right way. So he boggles my mind. I feel like
he's an interesting one.
He did try to plead insanity, but didn't work.
If only his family had believed in therapy and things and they had some kind of diagnosis on him. Maybe then he probably is insane.
He did do a little therapy, but it sounded like when they wanted to up the ante a little bit and do group, he was like, fuck this, I'm leaving. I don't know. I feel like you could dissect this way more.
You could. I would be really interested to hear, like, from a psychological perspective or doing research into when somebody, I mean, obviously, and we see it a lot at work where, like, one child is affected or impacted by autism and the other child is not. That attention difference, that care difference, the exceptions that happen. I can imagine that when one child goes through neglect or abuse or something even worse, like kidnapping, I can imagine the same kind of phenomenon happens. Did they say at all where all the other siblings ended up?
In the documentary, one of the siblings, a sister, was interviewed. And then they also had Steven's daughter and son that are now grown up, which they're like around between your age and my age right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was like the beginning of 90s. And then they had Carrie and Steven's mom on there, which was interesting to watch her. Because there was something, she's like, I'm not talking about that.
We love a queen with boundaries.
Yep. I think that was about it for family. Oh, and Steven's wife. She was on there.
Curious about that.
Yeah, she was on there as well. It was interesting. I mean, the sister definitely talked about how she kind of prodded Steven for details, and then when she did, she really regretted it.
Yeah.
Because then she couldn't get it out of her head. Yeah, it's this family. I just can't imagine, like, you have this brother, and then he died, and then you have this other brother, and you lose him too, in a way.
Right, yeah. It's hard how I feel like some families are, I don't want to say boring, because that makes this sound like it's exciting in a positive way, but some families have all this stuff that happens, and you can't even believe it, and then some are just boring. There's just nothing. I mean, I guess boring is a good thing in this situation, but that poor family, they went through a lot.
Yeah. You get these families that, like, everything happens to them. Everything.
Like, somewhere in the world's timing and planning, you guys were just set to have this go on.
Well, that reminds me of, like, I don't know why I'm thinking of the Romanovs. Like, but they all got killed. It's just like, why does this stuff happen to like to one family? It's just crazy.
It also makes you wonder if there's like more to it.
Yeah.
You know, like a hit and run. Well, or was the person connected? I mean, you hate to say that, and I'm sure they looked into that given who he was, but I don't know. Maybe it's too much time in true crime. I'm always like, or are they connected?
Don't trust anyone.
Right.
Yeah, some families are just cursed. I mean, look at the Kennedys.
Oh, the Kennedys is something I would love to dive into.
You need like a 19-part episode.
Oh, God, yeah. I bet there's no Bigfoot in that one, though.
Hey, he does creep up where you least expect him.
He does. I really didn't look for him. He always comes back.
Well, there's a bear dumped in New York City in Central Park.
What?
You never heard about that one? So yeah, RFK, he hit a bear in New York and they were going down to New York City, and then he had a reservation at some restaurant and he decided that he no longer wanted to keep the bear because he was going to eat the bear, you know, because you can consume bear. And so he dumped it in New York City. And everyone's like, oh, how is this bear here? Where did this bear come from? And then years later, recently, he confessed to leaving this bear in Central Park. You've never heard that?
No.
And he's in office? Good fucking Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And then I guess it wasn't a person's body. It was just a bear.
I don't know.
I mean, it could have been a Bigfoot body, but no, it was a bear. Are we doing a card?
Okay, pick a card, any card. Michelle Dower. On December 10th, 2013, the victim was found stabbed several times at the intersection of Broadway and Congress Avenue in Chelsea. If you have any info about this case, please call 1-855-MA-SOLVE.
What's her name again?
Michelle Dower. Dauwer.
And what's the card?
We are the 6 of spades.
Are we sure they're spades?
Yes. I'm not the one who has issues
know.
with the
You know.
spade. You call a spade a spade.
Because it looks like a shovel.
Uh-huh. And I just know that it's a spade.
Mm-hmm. And what town was this again?
Chelsea.
Ah.
The lighting in here is so dark that it's in a very thin red, and I'm like, what does that say? It says Chelsea.
Chelsea. Hence why we don't do a video podcast, because it's too dark in here.
Yeah, we don't like the big light. Hannah's vigorously shaking her head no, as if anyone on the podcast can see her.
All right, thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. We do love a good rabbit hole, and I feel like we've had quite a few rabbit holes in a row on this one. Side note, I will update everybody. From the Camp Wendigo episode that I did not get an email back from the individual that we emailed from the blog post. I did check again this morning.
We tried.
You know what, though? That email could be 10, 20 years old. We don't actually know. So if we do get an email back, I'll be sure to update everybody. But for right now, the update is no email reply back.
Well, thank you for trying.
Yeah.
And if this man is listening, I won't say your name because it was part of your email address.
And we should have some collabs
Reply
coming
to
up.
us. We do. We have quite a few people. We did a little bit of a different marketing push, changed some of our back end administrative stuff, and we're excited. We have some groups that would like to collaborate with us. Woohoo! So some new faces.
Excellent.
Or voices.
Sure. Face voices. In the flesh.
In the virtual flesh. That was for you, Cousin Mark. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Wanderers.
Thanks for listening today. Wicked Wanderings is hosted by me, Hannah.
And co-hosted by me, Courtney.
And it's produced by Rob Fitzpatrick.
Music by Sasha N.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave a rating and review, and be sure to follow on all socials. You can find the links down in the show notes. If you're looking for some really cozy t-shirts or hoodies, head over to the merch store. Thank you for being a part of the Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate every one of you. Stay curious, keep exploring,
And always remember to keep on wandering.
Hey there, beer lovers. I'm Rob Fitz, host of Beers That Fits, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the craft beer world. Every Thursday, I sit down with passionate owners and brewmasters of your favorite breweries to uncover their stories, inspiration, and brewing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned beer connoisseur or just starting your craft beer journey, we've got something for everyone. So grab a pint, tune in, and let's toast to great beers and even better stories. Slanja. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.